Hmm. Have you ever heard of forgiving Jesus? Hmm. I know. It blew me away too. Let's talk about it.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Tempered Tantrums and Transformations, the perfect podcast to explore the pitfalls and pleasures of pursuing your God given purpose. I'm your host, Shonda Carter, and I'm not only here to talk, but I'm also ready to listen because I believe healing starts the moment we feel heard. So let's get started.
Hi, it's me, Shonda Carter. I don't have a special guest today, but apparently we don't need one today. As we say in spiritual direction, the Holy Spirit is our guest today. So I am going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart because when I first heard about this, I was really just kind of blown away. Now, I know we've heard several sermons on the importance of forgiveness. And today I'm just going to take it one step further and introduce a concept that we may have never heard of before. Give me 1 second here for the technical thingies. Yeah, here we go. For the technicalities and all that other good stuff. We're talking about forgiving God. Now, please just bear with me because I know that sometimes when we think about things or talk about things that are uncomfortable and foreign, our brain does not want to have this conversation. And I need you to hear me out. Seriously, I need you to hear me out on this one. I'm not being blasphemous or anything like that. So let's just get into it. We know that a lot of bad things are happening right now, and bad things have always happened. And sometimes we get that question, why do bad things happen to good people? I know that's a big question, and I know that there are so many scriptures that people use to explain, to soothe, to heal. It's not a bad thing when people try to help, but we're just going to get real. Sometimes that doesn't help. And sometimes if you're someone like me, you want to understand, but you don't. So sometimes you can nod along, not that you're agreeing, you're nodding because, yeah, I hear you. So we're not agreeing. Sometimes people are like that. They just nod because, yeah, I hear you. And hopefully one day that'll work. There's all kinds of things that can go on with that nod. We want to believe that it's going to get better. We want to believe that there's a better life. I mean, who doesn't? But sometimes there are lots of unanswered questions, and then you don't want to go ask the question again because it's like, hey, didn't we cover this already? Read your scriptures, say your confessions, do what you need to do, what we've already told you to do. Listen to this teacher or listen to that teacher. Sometimes we want to give that quick answer. So today I'm really diving in as far as that goes. So we get the answers and we memorize the scriptures, but then what? What happens when that doesn't, and I'm saying this in quotes, work? What happens when it doesn't relieve your pain? What happens when it doesn't relieve your stress? Or what happens if you just still don't understand? And that's what's led me to this topic that I'm talking about today. There was a book I read a long time ago. It was probably way too advanced for me to be reading it at the time, but I was like, I just wanted to dive in. It was a Christian book, and I believe it was called The Beautiful Outlaw. That's what it was. It was called The Beautiful Outlaw. And at the time I was reading it, this concept really blew me away. And I'm thinking maybe it's been 10 years since I read this book, and I'm just now ready to kind of think about what happened to me when I read this story. In the book, the author was saying that he was, trying to provide counsel to someone. She was a Christian, and she had a wonderful, beautiful relationship with Jesus. And he was very shocked that she was having, it could be, you could say doubts, or she was saying, I don't feel connected to Jesus anymore. And he wanted to offer her advice, but he didn't. He was led to just pray. And some of the things that came out in prayer was some of the things that had been happening to her in her life. She had faced bankruptcy. I might be getting the story wrong, but just, we're just going to continue on with the story. A lot of bad things that happened in her life. She was facing bankruptcy. I know that for a fact. And she was very sad and hurt that when she went for counsel, people were blaming her, saying, well, maybe it's because you weren't tithing enough, or maybe it's because you had some secret sin in your life. It was all kinds of things going on as far as that goes. So she felt like, I can't come to the church and talk about this because I'm getting blamed. We can parallel like what's going on in society now with the Black Lives Matter, the police disruption, the rioting, the looting. Sometimes we, living in America, we can get like, not realize how blessed we are sometimes, whereas like third world countries, this could be their everyday life. But I know a lot of death and destruction happens in everyday life. And sometimes we get mad about that. And sometimes we don't get the explanations that we want. And that can happen. So back to the story, the woman was very upset because she was upset. I'm trying not to give too much of the story away, but let's get on with it. And the author said he was just led to pray with her. And during the prayer, he said that Jesus came to him and said, ask her, do you really think that I did this? And he says he did. He asked her, wow, God asked, do you really believe that he did it? And, sometimes as Christians, that is a hard question to answer. It's like there's some things that you think and there's some things that you do not want to admit out loud. And this woman, to her credit, was brave enough to say, yeah, you might not have done it, but you allowed it to happen. Therefore, you did it because you could have done something to prevent it. So I give this woman all, the hand claps in the world because, she's jumping straight into what she needs to do to be healed. So what was the stunning part of it was the author was waiting for some type of scripture or some type of instructions or some type of encouragement from Jesus. Like, well, what do I tell her in this situation? Like, give me the scripture, give me the encouragement. Do I tell her I love that you love her? What do we do? And too much to his shock and mine too, he heard Jesus say, then you need to forgive me. And I'm telling you, just like you might be doing right now, I was blown away. Like, what? Like, I have never heard of forgiving Jesus. Like, that is nuts. That's crazy. This is my thinking. That's what I was thinking. That is nuts. That is crazy. I kind of freaked out a little bit. I can remember it's been 10 years since I've heard this story or read this story. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm checking out the author, going back to see if he's Christian. Like, what's going on with this? I've never heard of anything like that. But basically, if you've ever studied forgiveness, we can go back to our old studies of forgiveness and our old lectures and our old sermons on forgiveness. Forgiveness is holding something against someone. We get all into, we wrap ourselves all into who deserves forgiveness. You got to forgive so you'll be forgiven. But let's just keep it simple. Forgiveness is releasing something that you've been holding against someone. I don't want to go into the seriousness of it. I can't do that right now because we have to stay on subject. And I know there's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of pain to it. I've had to forgive people that I did not feel that they deserved it. But when you look at it simply as releasing something that you've been holding against someone, that you've been holding against, it'll help you kind of take on a new, different meaning. Forgiveness comes in handy when you've been ignoring it and the problem won't go away. And you've been, I say, faithing it. Faith is a serious thing. I do not hear what I'm not saying, but sometimes we believe we're in faith and we're not. That's just another way to ignoring it or to not do the work. I'm speaking about me. If I'm speaking about you, adjust yourselves accordingly. However, we can say things like, oh, I'm in faith for that. So if you've been ignoring a problem and you've been saying you're in faith and the problem is not going away, or let's just say your feelings about the problem are not going away, or there's something blocking you, you might want to look at the concept of forgiveness, even if it means forgiving God. That's pretty big. That's pretty heavy. No, Jesus does not need our forgiveness. We need to forgive, because that's where we get kind of in the fog of, we think we're doing forgiveness for someone else. Thank you. We think we're doing forgiveness for someone else, and then as soon as you add someone else to the equation, it's like that's where it all goes. It goes to crap. I'm just going to say it, to crap. Because we're inviting someone else in, and that's when we get the things of, well, he doesn't deserve it. And then we start thinking about the other person, whereas it's for us. We need to forgive for us. And I know we've heard this concept before, and that's why I'm saying, like, it even applies to if you believe God did it. You're going to hear people say, no, God didn't do it. The enemy did it. And they can tell you that all day long. If you're still holding on to God did it because he allowed it, because you can tell me all day long that the enemy did it, and my first thought is, well, God allowed it. There's some areas that I'm not there yet. There's some areas that I still have. There you go. So you saying that there's an enemy and the enemy did it, sometimes it's like you have to look at who you're talking to, because sometimes that just is not going to cut it. And I know as human beings, we have the tendency to give a quick answer and we can just move on because we're uncomfortable with the subject. So if someone is coming to you and they're asking some hard questions, you might want to examine where you really are. Are you still listening to, are you just spouting off what you've been told, or have you been tested in that area to where you can sit down with them and let them be honest about what they're feeling? Because that's the whole thing. Like I said in my intro, healing starts when we feel heard. When someone is coming to you and saying they're having these issues, it's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take some time, and you need to be able to say, I don't know, or let's talk about this, or that you're not qualified to talk about that. But we're getting off into a whole different area. I just want to keep it on the healing part of it. You need to listen, or let them know that you're not able, like you might not be where you need to be able to listen to them and give them what they need at that time, because you're so busy. I want to jump ahead, give you this quick fix answer, and move on with what I've got to do. So once again, no, Jesus does not need our forgiveness. In that story, he was saying, you need to forgive me because, as usual, it's the benefit us. As usual. Forgiveness means releasing the resentment. Part of forgiveness means releasing the resentment, releasing the barrier of what's blocking you from receiving. I mean, that's why there are so many scriptures that forgive so that you can be forgiven. There's a barrier. And God is just interested in you taking down that barrier so that we'll be able to receive. And a lot of times, this is another thing that trips us up. You have to forgive before you understand. And there's a reason for that, because you don't know why something happened. You might not, to be honest, ever know why something happened, or know in the timing that you want to know. You might not understand that. So we need to forgive before we understand. A lot of people want to understand and want to, sort it out. And that's a good thing. Keep trying to understand, keep trying to sort it out, keep asking your questions. That's wonderful. But at the time, you don't know why it happened. But what you do know is that you're hurt. What you do know is that you're in pain. And you believe, and at the time, you might feel that if you understood it, that would relieve your pain. And God is saying the forgiveness is what is, in this situation, is what was going to relieve her pain. Um, like I said, you don't believe that she didn't believe that God did it, but the thought that you allowed this type of thing to happen to me, it sometimes it can cause a crisis of faith in some people. It really, really can. And those people, when we get to that point, the last thing we need is the pointing eye. How could you feel that way? How could you do this? Jesus died for you. We don't want to feel that way, but we feel that way. Okay. Like even I know, like I said, with the scriptures and things like that happen, we can do a lot of things. Mary, when Lazarus died, was offended. Like, had you have been here, he wouldn't have died. And, right at that moment, I feel her pain, because it's like, you allowed this to happen. And that's what happens sometimes. But that's the funny thing is, there's a happy ending. Jesus went and rose Lazarus from the dead. Wow, happy ending, wonderful, great story. What happens when Jesus, you allowed this to happen, and you still have not raised my brother from the dead? What happens then? That's where we need to step into these Bible stories, these scriptures that we spout off sometimes quickly. Scriptures are great, but let's just dive a little further before we just offer them, because sometimes scriptures are often where they are medication and they are inspired in words from God, and we're using them as band-aids, and a band-aid's not going to take the place of heart surgery. So scriptures are great. It's how we use them. It's, doing the research. It's like, what? Because I'm going to think, well, yeah, Mary felt better because Martha, forgive me if I get my Bible stories messed up. With Lazarus dying, she felt, to me, it's like, well, yeah, she felt better because she got her brother back. So I have to do some work and go in there and see what else God is saying, because all I'm seeing is she got what she wanted. You didn't give me what I wanted. So that particular story would not be the best story for me. And this podcast, this is not designed for the Shonda story. It is just to help you see that there are different personalities that you're speaking to. What works for you might not work for you, for me. And that is why I love the story in the book, because he sat down and they prayed together and asked Jesus, what do we do? What do I tell her? And that's what happens in spiritual direction. That's what I'm currently, training for, to be certified in, is sitting down with someone else and helping them to discern what God is telling them. Where are they seeing God? What is in this situation? Because one size does not fit all. That's why there are several stories in the Bible. There are several examples in the Bible. There are several type of people in the Bible. And we can't always just use the most popular version or what helped me. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and ask God, what do you want me to tell this person? What do you want me to do in this situation? Not, oh, this worked for me, so let this work for you. Let me see. I'm trying not to get off track here. So let's just get back to a little bit of what I was saying. We forgive. We need to forgive so that we can let go of what's blocking us from receiving what God has for us, because it's a barrier. It's a wall. It could be in the form of resentment. It could be in the form of bitterness. It could be in the form of the older brother. You never give me anything. You're always giving everybody else stuff. Yeah, I'm mad at you, God. And you need to have the courage to say, you know what? Despite all of my reading, studying, training, I'm mad at you. God loves stuff like that. Don't judge God on what other people have done. Have those conversations with God. If you can't have the conversation with God, seek someone that can help walk with you, help you have those conversations with God. I mean, that's why I fell in love with the art of spiritual direction, because of that, because the thought of walking with someone on their journey and being instrumental in helping them notice where God is, because it has nothing to do with me other than the fact that I can hear, and God can speak, and I can point and be in that. And it's just such a wonderful, wonderful thing. Some of the benefits, and I'm going to be just totally honest, when I was writing some of the benefits down, when you have that mindset of it's for another person, it's the benefits aren't that great, because you're constantly thinking like, I don't want to release them. They need to pay. They need to pay. They need to pay. I'm raising my hand right now. I have had those thoughts. I probably, if I don't catch myself, I'll continue to have those thoughts. I'm never, ever, ever going to pretend that I am somewhere that I'm not. So, like I said, I continue to have those thoughts. We've heard the analogies of, if you don't forgive, holding resentment is like drinking poison, hoping that someone else would die. I've heard that, and yes, it's a great analogy. It really is. I have no problem with that when it's the first time you've heard it. When you've heard it 1,000 times, doesn't have the effect that we that it used to have. But sometimes those analogies do help people, like visual people. So, just see, like I said, talk to who you're talking to. If they're a visual person and, that's what they need, use that, use analogies. Jesus was a great storyteller. It just depends on his audience. What does this say? Let me think. I know, in church we say forgive because it's for you. And we just leave it at that. It's like, how is it for me? How is me letting this person off the hook? And then it's like I said, we use that as a Band-Aid. It's for you. And then we move on. If you're going to say it's for you, be prepared to explain why it's for them. Be prepared to, get down to the nitty gritty of how it releases the resentment, how it's about them, not the other person, because they might be other person minded, where I cannot allow this person, and explain to them the difference between, and you understand the difference between forgiving, and because it's like, I'll forgive, but I won't forget. Forgive. Let's not worry about forgetting. Those are sayings. Explain to them that forgiving does not mean you embrace them and move them back into your house and act like nothing happened. Forgiveness is not ignoring. Forgiveness is letting go of resentment. Forgiveness is not mean put on your dunce cap and let them keep doing the same thing to you. But you need to, if you're going to throw out things, you just need to forgive. You need to explain. You need to go into more detail. You can't just say you need to forgive and walk away. No, that's not how it happens. You need to let them know what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't, if you're offering that as your offering. And that's usually what happens when you just go on your own. If you're not going to ask the Lord, what do you want me to say? If you're just going to spout off the words forgive, you need to be able to have that conversation of what it is, what it isn't. You need to say that it's not going to make them feel better. It might not make them feel better instantly, because sometimes that you can get set up for that it's going to, I'm going to forgive, and then everything is going to be all right with the word, everything is going to be all right, because that's what they said. They said I would feel better after I forgave. I know during the process that I had to forgive someone, it took me such a long time before I felt it. But I had a wonderful I still have a wonderful spiritual mother who walked me through the process. So every time I got angry, I'd call her. She took the time out to speak with me about it. She did the things that I'm saying. She explained to me what forgiveness is. She explained to me what forgiveness is not. She explained to me that I'm a human being and I'm going to have feelings. She explained to me that there's an enemy out there. There's an enemy to my soul. She explained all the things, and she did it more than once. She did not offer me the quick fix. She was there for the hard conversations. She was there for the tears. She was there for the crying and the anger that I had to do all this work and they weren't worried about it. I'm going to always tell on myself. I love telling on myself because I love connecting with someone that's been through what I've been through. So let me say, I have down here, oh yeah, we discussed what forgiveness looks like. Some of the benefits of forgiveness. Now I got this from, because like I said, we've heard about forgiveness and we've heard about things in church. So psychologists are saying that forgiveness is good. So it's not all, it is all God's idea. You know what I'm saying? But even psychologists say that, forgiveness reduces anger, it reduces hurt, it helps you with depression, it helps you with stress, it helps to set you free. That's a good one, huh? It helps you to move forward, it helps you with your peace of mind, and it helps you to release being a victim. In the story that I told previously, when the person said, when Jesus said, she needs to forgive me, it was kind of I can see where it would help to not be a victim. And that language is so, because you're not a victim. It's a victim mentality that we release, that, God is doing this and God is doing that to me. Or God allowed the enemy to just have access to me. We need to release that victim mentality of it's never going to work for me. It's never, I know sometimes they say that God is I heard in a movie, God is a kid with a magnifying glass on an anthill. I'm the ant. God is like sending lightning bolts to get me. It's like we walk around in a victim mentality, and you can't believe, you won't be expecting good things if that's your expectations of always being a victim. I hope that, this has helped in the meantime, because I'm going through the benefits really fast. But I'm doing that because, like I said, we want to jump to the benefits and discuss just the benefits. And the purpose of this was to discuss the hard parts, to discuss the hard things, to have the conversations that we never have, that we refuse to have, not only with others, but with ourselves. If you're mad at God, admit that you're mad at God. I'm telling you right now, he already knows it. You need to admit it. You need to stop pretending. We need to have those honest conversations. We need to have someone that can support us when we're having those honest conversations, because sometimes when you find out that you're someone that you're not who you think you are, that can be a very hard thing to deal with. I know I'm still finding out a lot of things that I thought I believed. A lot of things that I thought I was set on until I was faced with that situation. So that can be a hard thing, to have a good look at yourself. And that's what God is interested in doing, is to help you heal all those parts that you're having a difficult time with. Forgiveness helps restore your optimism, helps you believe that God has got great things for you, not that God is allowing all this horrible stuff and that's the only agenda that he has. Forgiveness builds your hope. Forgiveness helps you with compassion, and forgiveness also helps you with your physical health. So my thing today is, I hope that you have gotten from this, I hope you got something that can help you in the future. Is, forgiveness is a good thing. I didn't think that way all the time. And now with a clean conscience, I can say it's good. It really is. Been there, done that, done the walk. Probably going to have to do it again. There are people that I want to forgive me, and I know that they're holding on to the resentment hurts me. So yes, like I said, God is all powerful, and we might not think of him as being, that we can hurt him. So therefore we act like little brats and we just do what we want because, God is God. He's bigger than this. I can do what I want. Stop it. He wants to have these type of conversations with you. He wants you to get better. He wants you to be who he designed you to be. It's a mother's heart. It's a mother's heart. Moms are going to be there. Moms are going to love you. Some moms are going to be there, and some moms are going to love you unconditionally, but you can still hurt them. And sometimes when we give God this, you are the God in the sky, and yeah, he can handle anything and he can do anything. But if we just put a little compassion towards God, would we really act the way that we do? We need to have some compassion towards God and not just keep doing the I can act how I want and he's got to forgive me. So I don't want to get too far off script, because if you get me rambling, I'll keep on rambling. Hey, if you're in the area and you want to have some kind of hard conversation, or there's something that you want me to discuss, and if you want to be on this podcast, or someone that would make a great guest, I welcome conversations. As I said, I'm here to listen as well. I love having conversations. I love having different perspectives. Enjoy them very much. I hope that I have offered you a different perspective on forgiveness today. And not only and I want everyone to know out in podcast land that my podcast now is on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Buzzsprout. And you can also find me on my website, www.onewomen.org. You can find the podcast there. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please download it and give me a rating, you guys, because this is stuff that I always wanted. This is the kind of stuff that I wanted to hear in my journey. I'm still journeying. This is the kind of stuff that I would like to hear. So share it with your friends. Share it with anyone who needs this type of conversation. I'm not even going to say it's teaching, it's conversation. And contact me at my website. Go to my website. You can contact me there. And I really need to come up with a better ending. So you guys, I love you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, give me a rating. And thank you so much for your time this morning. Goodbye.